Thank you, everyone, and thank you so much for bearing with us while we get things moving and run behind time. I would like to welcome the next session, which is actually quite fun. So it's a special immersive and explorative experience by Dr. Claire A. Nelson, Whitehouse Champion for Change, Forbes 50 Female Futurist, Sustainability Engineer, and Storyteller. She's also the founder of the Institute of the Caribbean Studies. So thank you so much, Claire, for joining us today. And we're so excited to take ourselves into your journey. Take it away.
Well, they say there's nowhere in the world you can go and not meet up at least one Jamaican. Well, the fact is, if you don't know by now, I was the first Jamaican on the moon. I first came up to the moon back in 2032 to help set up the Citizen Cosmonaut Village. Yes, my dears. Now, how I got there is a long story, and probably I should start at the very beginning. How did I become an upstart? How did I start the upstarts? That is, in proper parlance, the United Planetary Society to assure the rights to space. Yes, now before I go forward, let me assure you that everybody on this call have a role or had a role in my story. What I love to have you do, if at all possible, is to put for me what you are doing right now. If you could put for me what it is that brings you here today, what SDG are you most interested in working on? That would help me remember which role you have in my story. Now, as I said, I first came up to the moon in 2032, but this whole journey began in 2016. And did I tell you also to say, and apart from what part of the earth are you watching me from? What country, what sector, what SDG you are working on? I need those things to just try and remind me where we first met. Yes, so back in 2016, my dears, I was trying to write a story about, life as a planetary society. My big dream, if you will, was to create this story about how humans save themselves from self-extinction, and we're better from than to go up into space. So I started to research space. In researching space, I found out about this company called the Lunar Embassy. Well, I decided to call the Lunar Embassy to see if I could get a piece of land on the moon. Well, that kind of sounds straight in on the moon. Anyway, a slice of the moon. They were selling rights to titles of pieces of the moon. So I called this Lunar Embassy. But as I was about to call, I noticed also that they were looking for ambassadors. Well, one time my skin catch a fire, man, because you see, I had always had this dream that I was going to be an ambassador from somewhere to somewhere. And I thought, just like how the one Dr. Camille Wardrop Allen was the first Trinidadian to be a rocket scientist, well, I was going to be the first Jamaican ambassador to the moon, or from the moon to Earth or something. But when I called these people, the man answered the phone. Yes, ma'am. I said, I'd like to inquire about how I can become an ambassador. This is what he says to me. You need to pay $10,000, ma'am, and you need to guarantee a certain amount of income. Well, I really said, is he for real? You mean they're really trying to sell this moon? So I decided to investigate this space thing. And the more I read is the more I get vexed. Because this time, of course, I am digging deep into the 2030 goals and the SDGs. And I'm beginning to understand that everything we're doing on Earth, hanging up in space, and the smartphones that are smarter than us need the satellites up in space. And all these things we need to measure water and remote computing and remote learning and remote schooling, all of them happening in space. And I'm starting to wonder. But wait a minute. There's no Caribbean people up in space. Well, except for Camille and Dr. Chung and Robert and Dr. Stefan. How many of us know about space? Well, What really got me, however, is when I found out that Mr. Musk and the three musketeers were planning to carve up space and leave nothing for we. Well, I get vexed. I got so vexed. I had to do something. You know what happened when a Jamaican get vexed and decide to do something. So I decided to plan about how am I going to help Caribbean people get up to space and make sure that they don't colonize the space the way they colonized America, and they certainly don't take us into the future as slaves. Well, my dears, let me tell you, as I begin to study, the more I begin to realize that we were tied up and our future is tied up in space. There are trillions of dollars to be made in space, so they said. But then I start to wonder, how are we going to cope? 2-3 years go by, and in 2018 I decided to charge the Caribbean Space Society. Why? Because I found out on top of all that they were planning to privatize the weather. Now imagine that we're suffering from climate change and they're going to privatize the weather. They're making big plans. This one is going to put up 22,000 cube satellites. Another one, Blue Planet, Blue X, Blue Origin, Blue Shift. Everybody blew except for us in the deep Caribbean Blue Sea. It was like a state of future shock. Well, my darlings, by 2020, I was a nervous wreck. And I decided this Caribbean thing too small. So I'm moving to the Space Futures Forum. Let me tell you, that was another story. And I can't talk about it now, except to say I want to find out who has said anything about where they are so I can make sure I remember what role you have in the story. I don't know if anybody have anything to say. But if when I see this Najila up here, where are you calling it from, my darling? Najila Sinak, where are you calling it from? Well, she's not saying nothing. I'm not sure if she's here or there. You know, when you're up on the moon and you're trying to take in, you know, where are you calling from, Daddy? Are you on the moon with me? Are you in the ISS or are you on Earth?
I'm actually calling in from the beautiful Lucia.
You're from St. Lucia, and which SDG are you working on again? St. Lucia, and which SDG are you working on again? Which SDG are you working on?
I'm with the Aspire Artemis Foundation.
Which one? I'm not hearing too well. Which one?
Aspire Artemis Foundation and the Master of Ceremony for today.
Well, you know, this connection is very bad, but I can tell you that my friend Hermina, she was very much into education. So back in 2021, I think, in the middle of the COVID pandemic, she decided to have a meeting about African descendant people coming together to equalize technology. Yes, what a nice sounding word. Equalize is like you just mix everything and serve out equal parts. So make sure that every corner of the Caribbean, every corner of Colombia, every corner of Brazil, every corner of Brazzaville, and every other bill have access to technology and science and engineering. Well, by that time, I was well fed because the Lord blessed me and the upstarts were off. And I got this lady named Najila Sinak, yes, from St. and she decided to join up in the upstarts. You know? And it's she that got the Prime Minister of St. Lucia to put forward a resolution in the United Nations to say that the Caribbean people wanted to ensure that the private people them couldn't own up all of our space and they couldn't put up more than a certain number of 100,000 satellites because we, the Caribbean, wanted to create our own satellite. And so by 2022, yes, the Nassau Research Corporation was formed. And my dream came into being. The whole of the Caribbean University, them, from Guyana to Belize, had a part of the project. And we created the Caribbean Space Alliance. And let me tell you something. We also ensured that space law was made. So if anybody something dropped from out of the sky and dropped from on the island, them, we have full insurance for that. So I have to tell you, say, Never believe that when the audience is small and a group is small, you cannot do nothing, because it always starts with a group of small people who believe. And I bless the Lord for the day that I decided to go on this show to talk about my Space Alliance, because it was a big dream that I know, but people on that call believed in the dream, and the Caribbean Space Alliance was formed, and our constellation was built, and the blue economy of the Caribbean was just covered. We had maritime domain awareness, that big sounding wordy, and all the little picking them learn how Anansi make spider web for go up a space. And we ensured that the cosmos were not carved up like the colonies. We ensured that we brought the spiritual and intellectual wisdom into the global affairs to let them know that we humans are only a part of the cosmos. We do not own the cosmos, but we are part of the cosmos. The cosmos do not belong to we. And so, my friends, me have to run now, because I understand them are blinking to take me off of the stage. But next time you call me back, and I will tell you the more about how we created the Space Lab at the University of Technology of Trinidad and Tobago, and the ground station at the University of Belize, and the Data Science Center at the University of Guyana, and everybody in the Caribbean had a little part. And we had a little movie about Anansi going to the moon. And guess what? And when 2032, I came back to set up the Space Goodwill Game site. Guess who was the captain of the Caribbean team? Usain Bolt, of course. You know, so we're big. Yes. And so let me tell you something. You see the Space Goodwill Games that happened back in 2036? I'm so proud to have been a part of that. And all I can say, 2 years from now, we're going to Mars. So guess what? Mars, here we come. Moon runnings.
Thank you. 2 years from now, we're definitely going to Mars. What a day it has been. Thank you, Dr. Nelson.
That's 2040. That's
for a very
2040.
That's 2040.
That's 2040.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nelson, for very energetic.
But I just want to say something seriously. When I wrote this story in 2016, I had no intention of starting. I had no evidence society. And this is why the stories we're telling ourselves are so important. Because having done the research to craft the story, when it happened that there was going to be a move to privatize this weather, and that the space economy was being planned without us being at the space economy, I had a story so well crafted in my mind. It was very easy for me to start teasing it. And the reality is, while you're hearing the story, the truth is, at present, I'm working to build a space lab at Morgan State University, a historically Black college and university. We're working to partner with a network of universities in West Africa, and about getting ready to also work with some universities in East Africa to build out a consortium of Black universities focused on space. So I do hope I'm able to engage more Caribbean universities in this, because I do believe unless we move now, we're going to be left behind and we once again be the enslaved, as apart from being a part of those who shape the future. And I really would like us to think of ourselves as shaping the future. So let's write those stories, make them clear, and let's ride the waves of the story to the realities of the future we want to create.
Dr. Nelson said, let's write the story and ride the waves. Thank you so much again, Dr. Nelson, for a very energetic and uplifting learning intervention. It was a beautiful story.